Toastmasters. Thank you for the notification. Let me first start by appreciating you all. It is an honor to speak to Toastmasters from any part of the world. And this evening, I'll be speaking about the moment of truth. Usually for a presentation like this, we would share a slide, but I prefer to engage rather than share a slide. So please permit me not to use a slide, but let's just have a discussion over what the moment of truth actually entails. The moment of truth within the Toastmasters circle, it's a very important training that's given to the club officers. I've been a Toastmaster for upwards of 14 years, and in almost all of those 14 years, I've been in one level of leadership or the other. I started as a regular member. I became a club secretary. I moved up to become the vice president education, the vice president membership, then vice president education. Then I became the club president. I became an area director. I became the finance manager for my district. I came back to become a division director. I became the logistics manager. I became finance manager the second time. I became acting finance manager the third time. I went back to becoming a logistics manager, and then I became programs quality director for my district, and currently I am district director for a brand new district. Why was that important? It was important because all the while when I was a club officer, we had been trained about the moment of truth. And then when I came into district leadership, I had also insisted that moment of truth was a training that's very important for us to give to our leaders. Now, this time, we're bringing the moment of truth actually to club members. Why are we doing this? For a couple of reasons. The first reason is that who can tell me what our motto in Toastmasters is? Could you just put it in the chat box if you can? What's the motto of Toastmasters International? You can Google it. This is not an examination, so no problems. Google it, check it up on the website. I just want to see those of us that are able to put it in the chat box. What's the motto of Toastmasters International? If you also can unmute your mic to speak, go ahead and unmute your mic. But tell me, we make leaders. Okay, yes, I love that. Our motto is where leaders are made. What this means is that in Toastmasters, leadership is not only those that we see occupy the front row at events, have very huge titles, and those that, I don't know how you do in Europe, but in Africa, we respect our leaders so much. So when you see a district director, it's possible that people bow down to actually greet you and reference you. But that's not what leadership is. Toastmasters says we are where leaders are made. What this means is that each and every one of us represents what we call leadership. So the moment of truth is an important training that should not just be restricted to only our leaders, but should also go all the way even to the members, because all of our members are leaders, and more importantly, they also are ambassadors of Toastmasters International. The moment of truth has 6 categories. The first is first impression, membership orientation, fellowship, variety and communication, program planning and meeting organization, membership strengths, and achievement recognition. But before we go into each of these 6 categories, I want us to talk a little bit about the Toastmasters core values. Again, can anybody just put in the chats what our core values are as Toastmasters? We have 4 core values. What are those core values as Toastmasters? You don't have to list them all. You can just put in one if it's one that comes to your mind. If you know all 4 of them, also please put them in the chat box. What are the core values of Toastmasters International? I'll give us a few seconds to do that. Our core values. Yes, RISE. That's the acronym for our core values. Let's just take them one after the other. Beautiful. Integrity, respect, service, and excellence. Now, these core values are important because first, we need to respect ourselves as members. I think Toastmasters was one of the places, the first places I got to where I saw that respect was not just based on age or social standing, but it was just based on the fact that you were human and you deserved to be respected. And that was something that we had done very well as Toastmasters. Another is integrity. One of the core values that we have is that when you say something, it has to be the way you have said it. And it started ringing in my mind. Of course, before I joined Toastmasters, I had known about integrity, but it wasn't something that would usually ring in my mind. But then after Toastmasters, I just saw that when I'm getting myself involved in stuff, I would ask myself, would I want people to know about this thing I'm doing? For those that are not here, am I fine to let them actually know about what I'm doing? And it got to a stage where in my club, I was the one that would usually go buy the snacks that we would have for break when we have our networking break. And sometimes because we usually would patronize this supermarket and they had known me there. So sometimes they would give me an extra snack to say, hey, you have been a very good customer. Every twice in a month, you would come buy these large amount of snacks. Take this one extra snack. And then I'd go back to my club president and say, hey, I bought this amount of snacks, but the supermarket gave me this other snack as a bonus. Because I did not want the case where I kept the extra snack and then somehow my club president got to know that I had gotten an extra snack and I wouldn't know how to express that or how to explain it. So integrity is also one of our core services, core values. And then service. Service is also our core value. And this goes back to our motto, where leaders are made. Service within the Toastmasters community is very important. Because sometimes we see people who have risen through the ranks. Maybe someone had gotten a DTM, and after the DTM, maybe there's nothing else to conquer. And then they say, well, I'm done with Toastmasters. I've gotten to the peak. I can just drop off. I've seen people who become club presidents, and then they say, well, I've gotten to the peak. I want to drop off. At the time of the traditional educational system, we've gotten people who had gotten to the competent communication tier, and they'll say, well, I've done enough. I want to drop off. But we need to realize that as Toastmasters, we are meant to be leaders. And what being a leader means is that you need to have followers. And remember, I'd mentioned that being a leader does not mean you being bigger than the other people or being more brilliant than the other people. It simply just means that you have the power of influence other people. And how do you have power of influence within a Toastmasters space? If you've seen somebody who has done a speech, you could give them personal feedback to say, you did this very well, but you could have done this better. If there's a skill that you know how to use very well, you actually can coach that person on that skill. So you don't have to be an official mentor to be able to coach somebody through a skill. And you doing that makes you a leader for that person, because the person possibly would look up to you for whatever it is that you're taking them through. And then the final one is excellence. Excellence. If you ask people what excellence means, people could tell you that excellence would mean you want to be the best all the time. But I beg to disagree. To me, excellence could mean that you have done the best that you could do at that point in time. A good example is if you have two people. Let's say you have two dogs that are meant to run a race. One of the dogs is lame. The other one is a world champion. If you put both of them on the track, excellence may mean the first dog to get to the finish line. But for that dog that is lame, excellence could mean getting to the finish line, even if it's after 2 days when the race has finished. Yes, that dog may not get a trophy, but guess what? The dog finished the race despite all odds. So let's rethink what we think excellence is. Excellence does not mean being the best all the time. Excellence would mean this is not my area of strength, but I gave it my best. I was not the best, but I came out shining. That could also be what excellence means. Now that we've broken down our core values, let's delve into the moment of truth. Like I mentioned, moment of truth has 6 categories. And the first is the first impression. First impression simply means, what do people see when they come to your club for the first time? I remember the very first time I went to a Toastmasters meeting. The person who invited me to the Toastmasters meeting actually had confused me. Obviously, because he did not also know what Toastmasters meant. I was a young guy at that time, and what he told me was that Toastmasters was a place where you could go learn how to speak with ladies. I was a young guy. It was a time when I wanted to start speaking to ladies, and I am very shy. So I thought, this is a good place to go learn how to speak to ladies. But when I got there, what I saw was the direct opposite of speaking to ladies. Yes, people were speaking, but they were not speaking with the mindset of speaking with ladies. They were speaking with the mindset of excellence, excellent public communications in mind. And I thought, this is a place I actually want to be in. So what is the impression that people have when they come to your club for the first time? How do we make people feel welcome? How do we welcome people who have come to the club meeting for the first time? In my club meeting, what we usually would do is that if you're a first timer, you're spotted out immediately because we know ourselves. And somebody would walk up to you to introduce themselves to you and tell you a little bit, some chit chat, and begin to introduce you around the club. Before the meeting starts, you probably know half of the people in the room. And at that stage, you're even more comfortable as a guest. We have guest books. Our meeting rooms are usually professionally arranged. We usually would meet in a corporate organization. We make sure that our meeting location is convenient. We still meet in the Central Business District in Lagos. So it's a place where everybody knows, even if you do not work in the Central Business District, it's a place where you want to go to. And after every meeting, all of the guests are invited to talk to the club members, introduce themselves. What do you do? What's your perception about the meeting? Is it going to be something that you want to do? Is it something that you want to? Is it a club that you would love to join? So all of these things make guests feel welcome. One of the things that we also do is that we use table topics as a tool. We usually would encourage our guests to speak at table topics. When guests do that, they usually will see that deficiency that they need to be able to develop that skill of speaking off the cuff. And it usually does a lot of benefit for us in our club. The second category in the moment of truth is membership orientation. And membership orientation simply means, what value do we sell to our members when they join our clubs? In my club, one of the first things that you get as a member is a mentor. Because I don't know about you, but in the area where I live, Toastmasters are seen as superhumans. People believe that we are orators. We are the best of the best. Is that true? Maybe not totally true. I think I have a lot of improvements to do. And I've seen people who are even speech champions. And when they do speeches, they would always get evaluation of what they could do to improve themselves. I think all of us in Toastmasters are work in progress, and we can always get better. But our guests and our new members do not see us as such. They see us as people who have arrived at the very peak and can learn no more. What this does to new members is that in my club, I've seen where new members are scared to speak. You ask them to do a speech, and they will keep postponing and postponing. They just don't want to speak because they do not see themselves in the same class with the people that they've seen speaking. What we do to break that barrier is to appoint a mentor. And the job of a mentor is well cut out. As a mentor, you are not meant to be the boss of that new member. No, you're meant to be the friend. You're meant to be the person that takes the new member out to lunch. The new member needs to be comfortable around you to be able to tell you what their problems are. And you must also be able to provide solutions to those problems. Sometimes you may not be able to provide those solutions, but you must be able to point out that member to the places where they can see solutions to their problems. For instance, if a new member has problems with vocal variety, or speaking on video, or gestures, you as the mentor may not have that skill, to help that new member. But you could arrange a meeting with someone else who has that skill, who the member may not have access to. So assignment of mentors is a very critical role that helps build our members. Something else that we do not do we do it in my club, but we do not do it the way I've seen in the club in Germany, is formal induction of members. In my club, yes, we do an induction every quarter. But what I saw in the club in Germany was very encouraging for me. What they actually do is that after the member has made the payment, before the member is inducted, they tell the member that a Toastmasters membership is a privilege. And the club must be willing to accept you. So what we're going to do is that we're going to excuse you, new member. You go out of the room, and the club members will vote if they want to accept you within the fold. 100% of the times, the club members will vote yes. But the impression it gives to that member is that this is something of high value that I must not joke with. I have to take this membership serious. And we see that the way a member joins Toastmasters usually will describe the speed or the enthusiasm with which they go through the program. When you see a member like that, the member wants to do their speeches, the member wants to be able to get stuff done because they see that this is a privilege, that despite that I've made payments, these guys can still send me packing. So that formal induction is something that we need to do for our members. Again, I've spoken about the assignment of a mentor. Part of the things that the mentor also needs to do is to educate the members about the education program of Toastmasters. People believe that Toastmasters is a place of magic where you come, boom, you become a wonderful speaker. But no, I see Toastmasters as a stairwell educational system where you come, you start at the bare bottom, and you begin to climb up step by step. Sometimes when you climb up that stairs, you miss a step. But the point I want to make here is that when you climb up a stairs, you usually do not see the top of the building from the bottom of the stairs. You need to get to the first landing, get to the second landing, get to the third landing before you probably get to the fifth floor where you're going to. And that's the way the education program of Toastmasters is. Sometimes as a new member, you just want to get to the first landing and stop. You may need somebody to encourage you that there's still more to do after that first landing. So membership orientation is very important. Another thing that we also can do with membership orientation is actually assigning roles to members and ensuring that our members are involved in our club activities. These are very, very important. The next point is the education program and our fellowship, variety, and communication. Now, with fellowship, variety, and communication, this is one of the most important parts of the Toastmasters journey. One of the things that I noticed in Toastmasters outside of my club, because this is not a very big thing in my club, is that in a lot of clubs, what you see people do is that we are so focused on the education program, we forget that we are humans, we are social animals, and we need to live life as the humans that we are. How do I mean? What sort of meetings do we hold? In my club, we have several types of meetings. Every October, when we have the Nigerian independence, we have an independence-themed meeting. Every December, first or second week of December, we have the end of the year party, which is a club meeting. And we integrate our change of guard into that end of the year party. Sometimes we have language-themed meetings. In Nigeria, we have something called Pidgin English, which was a bad type of English that the colonial masters spoke to Nigerians when we're being colonized. So it's the lingua franca. Everyone speaks Pidgin English in Nigeria. So sometimes we hold meetings with pidgin English. Sometimes we have meetings that just talk about the history of Nigeria, and everybody who is coming to speak is coming to speak about history of Nigeria. All of these are varieties that we include in our club meetings to make it enjoyable. One of the things that I think we also do very well is that first, we have a very wonderful meeting venue. Our meeting venue is in the penthouse suite in the corporate organization, just by the sea. And even though our meeting closes by 12:30, what we see is that people are right there at that meeting venue up till 5:30 p.m., connecting with each other, meeting new people. Sometimes people even invite their clients over to come experience the meeting and talk business after the meeting. If possible, it's good that our club makes such things available. When such things are available, you see that members are able to interact with each other. Our relationship goes beyond Toastmasters and goes outside of Toastmasters. Now, as a district officer, one of the things I preach is that our meetings must not just be technical meetings. It must be networking meetings. It must be meetings of opportunities. And one of the things I tell my members is that I run a corporate organization, and I make sure that my membership dues for Toastmasters is charged to my organization. Because I think that Toastmasters gives me such value that it is worthy for my organization to pay for my Toastmasters dues. I get business from Toastmasters. I meet Toastmasters who are willing to do business with me. I remember I had gone to a club contest, and I sat beside a lady on whose desk just the day before I had submitted the proposal. I did not know her. I met her just at that meeting on Saturday, and on Friday I had submitted a proposal to her. We spoke, and then she said she worked in this bank. I said, oh, that's funny. I was at your bank headquarters yesterday. She said, what department? I told her the department. She said, wow, what project are you talking about? I told her. It happened that she was the one handling the project. And your guess is as good as mine. I got the job. So I feel that my job should be able to pay for my Toastmasters membership because of the value that it gives to my organization, not just to me as an individual. Why? Because I'm able to meet strategic people within the Toastmasters organization that were able to support me. What this means is that as members, we must be able to support ourselves. If you do business and you need a caterer and you have a member who runs a catering organization, it is good you give that person the job. Of course, we hold each other responsible and accountable. So because you're giving a Toastmaster a job does not mean they should come do a shoddy job. If they've done that, you can blacklist them. But we need to be able to support ourselves outside of club meetings. We need to be able to build relationships outside of club meetings. If we're able to do this, we would see that our club will grow bigger and stronger. People are going to be willing to invest much more within the club. People are going to be willing to achieve their educational goals because now it's not just about me, it's about the whole lot of us. Something that we've also seen happen within my division here are inter-club events, where you see two clubs come together to host the same type of event. Not the statutory district event like the speech contest or club officers training, no. But it's December now, for instance. I know two clubs that are coming together to organize a beach party for their members to go to. Just this week, I think in 2 days' time, a division is organizing an online movie night where they're going to check out a movie and watch the movie just via Zoom. The screen is shared, everybody's there. Nobody's counting the hours in such meetings. Nobody's evaluating, you did this very well, you did not do this very well, but people are just connecting as humans. When we're able to build this network amongst ourselves, we see that it translates into the growth of the club, which eventually will translate into the development of individuals that are members of the club. The next point is program planning and meeting organization. And this has to do with how our meetings are planned. In my club, and now this does not happen again, maybe we overgrew it, but in my club, some 5, 7, 10 years ago, if you wanted to play a role, you must arrive at the club an hour before the club meeting starts. I remember at a day that I got to the meeting 15 minutes before the meeting started. I was to be table topics master. I had prepared for the role. The Toastmaster of the day excused me from the role and said, "You are not prepared to play this role." It was very painful, but I learned a lesson that if I'm going to be involved in playing a role, I needed to, above all odds, arrive at the club meeting early. It's also a normal thing for our club members to arrive 30 minutes earlier. Why? There's usually a networking session just before the meeting starts. So people who want to network would usually want to come early to meet people. It's also important for you to have an idea of what kind of a club you are. When people speak to me, and before I became street director, I'd been a leader in terms of Toastmasters within Nigeria. So I had friends out of Nigeria who had friends who were visiting Nigeria, and they would call me to say, "Hey, I have this friend coming to Nigeria, and they would want to visit a club." I usually would ask, "What's the age of your friend? What does your friend do? What kind of a person is your friend?" The reason why I asked those questions is that from my experience, most clubs have a personality. My club, for instance, is filled with young high flyers. If you talk of entrepreneurs, startup funders who had received millions of dollars in grants, you find them in my club. If you talk about people who had received awards for innovation, you find them in my club. Even if we had elderly people, we had a huge number of young people who were high flyers in whatever careers it was that they were doing. Lawyers, senior advocates, you find them in my club. What you would see in other clubs is that some clubs are clubs for students, for instance. Such clubs will be located within or around a tertiary institution. Even if they would have elderly members, the core of the members are students. So their events will be related to what students want to do. You see such clubs will be organizing football matches. You see such clubs would organize a meeting, and in the meeting, they have a beauty pageant within the meeting. I also have clubs that are for top executives. In such clubs, you will see people who are in high political offices, CEOs of multinationals within the country. They would belong to such clubs. So it's important for you to also have an idea of what kind of club are you? What are the kind of members that you would attract? Who are the people that would want to come to your club? If someone comes to your club, what's the chance that they're going to come to your club again? My club is not the best club in Nigeria, but I've seen people who say, "I've gone to several clubs, but I feel more at home within your club." What you would see most of the time is that that person is in the class of the people who are usually in my club. And you see some people who would come to my club and they will say, "Oh, your club is too playful. They are not very serious there." There is a club for the senior executives that is very serious and not as playful as my club. What sort of club are you? And this would now determine what kind of meetings that you are going to be planning. How do you want to engage your members in your meetings? Do your meetings start on time? Irrespective of the kind of meeting that you run, your meetings must always start on time. It's very serious. I've been to meetings where the meeting starts 2 minutes late, and the club president would have to apologize to say, "I'm so sorry, our meeting started 2 minutes late." What sort of table topics do you host? I've been to club meetings where their table topics are so interesting and innovative, and they are not even going to be the serious live topics, table topics. No, it could be fun table topics. If you are in this situation, what would you do? Something to make people feel comfortable and relaxed within our club environment. Also, what kind of evaluations do you get? Evaluations are very important. For some people, you give evaluations to a first timer and they would never ever come or speak in your club meeting because you give them PTSD. They are just scared to speak. Your evaluation must come with the aim to inspire. And that's the reason why in Toastmasters, even if somebody has done so much terribly bad, we encourage them, we appreciate them, we applaud them, we tell them what they have done. If they've done nothing good, the fact that they stepped out to speak is something that is very good. So our evaluations must be helpful, must be positive, and the aim of evaluation is always for the member to improve. Finally, I'm going to talk about achievement recognition. Just behind me here, I have a shelf where I have so many awards. And why are awards important? Awards are a validation of the hard work that one has done. Of course, we do not do all of the hard work to get awards. However, it's important that we appreciate people for whatever it is that they have done. So if you've seen a member who have gone through the pathways and they finished their pathways, it's important for us to approve those pathways early enough. Because when I finish my part this week and I get an email from Toastmasters International this same week that I had completed my part, it's right with me. But sometimes what we see happening is that it takes maybe 6 months. I'd overcome the euphoria of the part that I've gone through before I get that confirmation that I had finished that part. What would happen is that such a person may not be motivated to start the next part. We need to immediately submit awards applications to World Headquarters. And that's part of the reasons why the new base camp now allows all club officers to be able to submit awards, not just the Vice President of Education as we had in the previous base camp. It's also important that we let everyone know those of us that are doing very well. In my club, we have a pathways chart that shows who has done what. And it's displayed at every meeting date. So anytime that our members come, they feel inspired to say, oh, this person has done this much. I may also need to do as well as this person has done. So it's important for us to show our progress charts in our educational awards and encourage others to also rise within that chart. It's also important for us to recognize our members' achievements, not just within the Toastmasters environment, but even outside of the Toastmasters environment. What does that mean? I remember when one of our members who ran an education startup got a multi-million-dollar grant from an international organization. The club president actually spoke about it during a club meeting. Such a member feels elated that what they're doing outside of the club meeting is being recognized within the club meeting. But more importantly, those things also inspire other people within the club. If this person can do it, maybe I can also do it. This is the place of champions. Maybe I also want to be here also. If we also have international leaders coming to our club meetings, it's important for us to recognize them. What we usually would do would be to reserve the front seats for our international leaders or our district leaders that are coming to join us. Our club president would always sit in front, just to show that we recognize the efforts that they are putting in within the club. Also, as we know that the Distinguished Club Program is something that we use to gauge the clubs across the world. As our clubs are achieving those goals, it's important for us to also let our members know that we have achieved this goal. This is the next goal that we are achieving. These are the people that we are looking up to help us achieve the next goal that we want to achieve. All these things would encourage us to get stuff done. One important thing I would want to end with is that in Toastmasters, we are not magicians. We improve ourselves just step by step. Because sometimes I've seen members who would say, no, I can't speak because everyone seems to be like an expert. No, we're not experts. We're just people who take improvement serious and are willing to take those steps little by little. So let's not wait till we become the experts that we think that we are. No, let us take those little steps. And Toastmasters is a place where we can come and actually mess up, because our mess gets cleaned and we get better time by time. So as I end, my question would be to you: do our clubs meet the standards that the moment of truth has set? Thank you very much. And I'm sure that we're over time, but if we have time, I'm very happy to answer any questions that we may have. Thank you. And over to you, the Toastmaster of today.
Thank you, DTM Yusuf. We have one question from Dilek Bayhan. Thank you for the presentation. It is very helpful for all of us. Dilek, stage is yours.
Hi, Yusuf. First of all, thank you very much for your inspiring and encouraging speech. It was very wonderful. And I'm just curious, I saw your on CV, you were responsible for the program quality director, program quality director. It's the excellence is one of our core values, is the direct link with the quality. What is your advice to the believer for the newcomer to excellence, and how can we help, and how can we be more contributing in the excellence in our club?
Thank you very much. Again, one of the ways that we can work on excellence within our club is to have a structured method for membership growth. And like I had mentioned, maybe the most important part of membership excellence is having a mentor. Because again, members do not see the full picture. Members can also be very scared of getting fully involved. So they need somebody to hold their hand through the journey. What we do is we have a list of members that we think are qualified to serve as mentors. For the old traditional system, you must have done a Project 5 for you to be listed as a mentor. For the current one, say you are finished a part, that can qualify you to serve as a member's mentor. And we ensure that every member that comes to our club is assigned to a mentor. Sometimes you will see members have 2 or 3 mentees. What that does is that the member has somebody to guide them through the process. So having a mentor may be the most important thing that we can do for our members. The other thing that we can do is to actually monitor our members' growth. What we'll see in my club is that the vice president of education will actually call you and say, hey, what do you want to achieve? A lot of us join Toastmasters for different reasons. So our program for the member needs to be designed to what the member wants to achieve. When I joined Toastmasters, I wanted to be able to stand in front of an audience and just open my mouth. For some other people, they want to speak with suave. They want to speak with style. For some other people, it's vocal variety that they have a problem with. We need to know why our members are joining our club and design the program. It's going to be the same program, but we need to give them the opportunity to be able to achieve what it was that they came to the club to achieve. And I think that if we're able to do this, we'll see that our club quality is going to be improving and our members are going to be motivated to actually do more. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there another question, please?
Yes, please. I have a question.
Yes, please. Stage is yours.
Thank you, Kayode, for the great presentation. I would love to ask with regards to getting more members, within the club, right? Instead of maybe us waiting for members to come, have their first meeting, what type of proactive activities can we do outside to reach the people and then bring them for their first meeting?
Beautiful. Let me just also mention that what we have just done, I think we spent about 30 minutes doing this, is actually something that should take about 4 to 5 hours to do, because I just glossed through a lot of these points without going deep down. And I'm happy that these questions are revealing that I actually just glossed through these questions. Now, how do we get members? Difficult, but also something that we can work around. So I've spoken through my presentation that sometimes it's good to organize social events. In my club, for instance, one of the cultures we have in my club is after our club meetings, I mentioned that we finish our meetings at 12:30, and we usually would just hang around our club meetings till around 5:30. At that 5:30, we're not going home. We usually would select a restaurant where we'd just all go. And what we're doing is we call it restaurant testing, just like you have a wine testing. We do restaurant testing. So we go to this restaurant, may be expensive. Everybody buy your own meal. So bordering the club or bordering a member, even if you don't have money to buy a meal, buy a bottle of water, but we're just going to go to that club, that restaurant, and just go enjoy the ambience there. And what we see is that some people actually invite friends to just come experience that restaurant tasting with us. And when that person comes, the person is like, oh, I like the conviviality amongst this group of friends. What are you guys? Oh, we belong to a Toastmasters club. They usually don't know what the Toastmasters club is. So just think it's an association. I like this association. Can I join? Of course you can join. It just costs you, at that time, membership was $15. It just costs you $15 biannually. Just $30 in a year. I'm going to happily join. And so some people would actually come join our club, not to come learn public speaking or leadership, but just because we had gone to a restaurant. So building social activities within our club activities is an excellent way to actually market our club to people. Another thing that we had done excellently in my club was the use of social media. At about 10 years ago, if you anywhere within Nigeria had Googled public speaking, one of the top 3 links that would come out would be my club. And what this did was that we had so many people who would come into our club just because they had Googled public speaking leadership. They would come. And what we also did was that we had a follow-up mechanism. One of the exciting things about me is that when I get into a position, I usually want to do something that stands me out. And one of the things I did as club secretary was that I started a newsletter. 13 years ago, newsletters were not very popular. And at that time, MailChimp had just started. So I just started a MailChimp system. At every meeting, I made sure I add photos. So I created the templates. I put in the photos. I spoke about everyone that played a role. The Toastmaster of the day. If the Toastmaster of the day had done something exciting, I spoke about it. The people that did the table topics, a photo of them, an action photo of them while doing the table topics, the speakers, what the speakers had spoken about. And our meetings held on Saturdays. I made sure that latest on Monday morning, the newsletter had gone out. What that did was that even for people who had come just to see what we were doing, got involved. And within that newsletter, I put in what the cost of membership was, the account number to make payments to. Because again, you see, Toastmasters membership can also be a sales pitch. When you get marketed something, at that point, if you think you need that stuff, if you have the money, you probably would pay. If you did not have that money, and you said, in 2 weeks' time, I would have the money, I'll pay. In that 2 weeks' time, that emotions may have died down. So one of the things that we try to do is that we ensure that right after you leave our meeting, we are right in your faces. And this again goes to program planning. You need to ensure that the quality of your meetings are top-notch. Like I said, the first meeting I walked into, the mindset I had was a different mindset. But when I got into that meeting, I went to look for the money. I became a member. And that was something that we always did. Immediately after each meeting, we called the guests together. We gave them an overview of what Toastmasters is, and we gave them membership forms. We ensured that we took a deposit from them. And then we follow up with them to ensure that they made payment of the deposits. We have seen several people who came to our club who made payments for membership and they never returned. Why? Because at the point where they came, they believed that Toastmasters was the next best thing for them. They thought they wanted to join, they made payments, and they disappeared. Maybe it was no longer important for them. But the point is that if we're able to plan our meetings very well, and people are able to come, and we hook them up, there are chances that they would want to become a member. So, having excellent programs planned, making sure that we have a social aspect to the programs that we have done, and making sure that we also follow up with our new members to ensure that they want to finish up if they really want to become a member. Thank you.